Welcome, everyone. Thank you for making the change of the meeting. Of course, Bundy's priority was the call out, and I'm sorry we had to change. Actually, we got done at the call at about 10, and we checked on Zoom to see if you're still there. There's nobody there. You're just.
We closed it down at 9:30.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to pull up the agenda for tonight, and we'll go over what we're going to present. Okay, so our agenda tonight, thank you, Don. Our agenda tonight is, of course, news and updates. Deneise will give a membership update. We have had quite a lot of activity with applicants in the last few months. Deneise will update us on that. Peg Kern will give the financial report for February. Tonight is an important event because we have election of officers. Rick and the nomination committee has presented their nominations the last 2 months. Tonight, this March, is when we have a member voting for those officers. Those officers, assuming they're elected into their office, will start duty on April 1st. And we have mission reports, and we're not talking about all the missions, just I picked out 3 to talk about lessons of the month. Peg Cook will cover our training for March. And then I'm going to end with what I'll just leave with a special story with a lesson for all of us. So I'll leave you just wondering about that. Tonight, we have 2 announcements of retirement. Frank, you're on. Frank has announced his retirement as of March 31st. It's a very sad day for us. Frank has 15 years of service to both the Sheriff's Office and VSAR. Frank is a very active searcher. He's an invaluable source of Verde search and rescue history. And frankly, he can hike faster than most of us. You see Frank here with his hiking machine. Is that right, Frank?
That is correct.
Yeah. So Frank, I think you said you had a few things you wanted to say.
Yes, I want to thank everyone for their volunteering, your professionalism, and it's really, I value every one of you guys. And thank you for carrying the baton for me. Had a great time, wonderful time. I'll miss everyone, but it's been fun.
Now, Frank, what in the world could you do now after VSAR? I don't understand.
I'll still fingerprint some of the candidates. Okay. I'll be volunteering with Sedona PD and many other things as well.
Okay, excellent. Frank, thanks for your invaluable teaching to me and others and your years of service.
I have one more mission with Peg is going to be talking about the training this time. I will assist, my last assist, if we have the training on Saturday for Land Nav, and that'll be it for me. That'll be my last commitment.
Okay, we look forward to seeing you on Saturday, weather permitting, okay?
Yes.
Weather permitting, okay. Thank you, Frank. And then Rick. Rick has also announced his retirement, also March 31st. Rick has had 11 years of service to the Sheriff's Office and VSAR, 4 years as VSAR captain, 2 years as Secretary and Pals captain. And again, Rick's been an invaluable source of Verde search and rescue history, and an invaluable mentor to me. I've learned a lot to Rick. Whenever I can't figure out what to do, I called Rick and say, how did you do this? And he's always helpful to me. Rick, I don't think you wanted to say anything particularly, right?
That is right. I don't think you want to see a grown boy cry.
Okay. Okay. Rick, I'll ask you the same question I asked Frank. What in the world could you do next after VSAR?
Well, we're hoping to maybe travel a little bit more. And
okay.
I think I'm also going to walk over here to my vet's office and see if I can't give him a hand walking dogs and cleaning up dog poop and anything else that he might need help with.
Okay, I'm sure they'll use an invaluable source of help with your you know, if you find any dogs that could be good search dogs, let us know. Okay, thank you, Rick. And
Tim, could I, oh, sorry.
That's all right, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, when I started, you know, Frank and Rick were, you know, all of our mentors. And I think that, you know, our group has grown so much because of these 2 and others that are at the same time, that so welcoming and so mentoring, and really, really encouraged us. And I mean, I just think that our club is where we are today because of Rick and Frank and their colleagues. So I know for myself, when I started, I just felt like I was like really taken under their guidance, and being the newbie on the block, I just felt very welcomed, and that they really are great mentors. So thank you very much.
And this is the other Peg, and I completely second that comment, the other Peg and all others. We've had tremendous years together, Rick and Frank and everyone else, and we are definitely going to miss you guys terribly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Rick and Frank, when you look at VSAR Posse today, that's your legacy. It exists because of what you and Frank and your early companions did to start VSAR, and how you trained us. So thank you.
Yes,
VSAR would not be what it is without you two.
absolutely.
And in small recognition of that, to remember VSAR, you are getting a gift from VSAR. It's a license plate for the front of your vehicle. It'll say Retired Verde Search and Rescue. You see a pictorial representation of this. So it'll be orange, and you can decide if you want it in your office or on your vehicle or anywhere else. Spence got one of these from his nephews when he retired, and I noticed how proud Spence was of this. He showed it to me twice. He was all smiles. He put it in front of his vehicle, and I just thought that was a perfect gift for you, for Frank, and for Rick. So you'll get this when you turn in your equipment. No. Next time I see you, maybe Saturday, hopefully they'll come by then, okay? Okay, thank you again. Updates. Okay, we just have one slide, 2 slides of updates. Most of them are all about volunteer rescue and the impact on the posse. So you know that Heidi sends out monthly revisions of the VSAR membership and the call out roster and the faces. There's usually 3 things that she sends out. We found that with volunteer rescue containing all membership information, that there's really no need for Heidi to keep updating those and sending them out. So effective now, Heidi will stop sending out monthly revisions of VSAR membership and call out roster. All that data, well, except for things like what equipment you might have, for example, are in VR. So a member's email, a member's phone, and you can contact them through VR. Heidi will still send the faces document because VR would not include the pre-academy people, like for example, Bree tonight. So she will still send out the faces, so we know the new faces, and the new faces know the old faces. Okay. And there's also a new VR feature that will be introduced. VSAR will be tested on this later tonight. So you know how with training events, you are getting an email, usually a day ahead of the training event. Reminder, you're signed up for land nav that will start tomorrow at X time. Peg, Kern, and Heidi have found out a way to also send that as a text message. Some of the units, like in YCSRT, their members may not have ready access to emails, and they were wondering if VR could send text messages for training reminders, and Peg and Heidi found out how to do that. So I think tonight they'll be sending out a test to all members after the meeting. They want you to check your spam and junk for email from VR and watch for that text. Peg, did you want to say anything else about this?
That covers it mostly. I will say there's a couple people that are not, Frank, I'm not going to have it sent to you because we don't have your carrier, your cell phone provider. And Louise, because you're out of country, we won't send it to you. And but other than that, we'll send the test out to all members after the meeting tonight. You should get both a text and an email. And please respond just to the email to say that, yes, you got that in the text. And then even when you register or unregister, or anytime if the event is canceled, for example, that will automatically include a text when the automated message goes out for those things, which is really a huge benefit.
Again, this was a Peg and Heidi started looking into this when particularly several YSCSR team members asked, can we use the call out system, the call outs for reminding of training? And that would actually be a bad no-no, because when you issue a call out for training, it automatically blocks the previous call out for missions if it was at a certain amount of time. So we don't really want to clog up the call out part of VR. And VR was not designed to use a call out for reminders about training. Did I get that right, Peg?
Yep, you sure did.
Okay, good. I've been listening. Okay, the third thing about VR is we will start using VR now to check in and out of events. Now, what this means is that when you answer yes to a call out, you automatically checked in. After you leave a call out and get home, we're going to have you check out, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. We will have you check into training and check out of training. So just let me repeat that. When you say, yes, I can go to this mission, VR automatically checks you in. You will have to check out when you get home from VR. It's easy, takes a few seconds. And you will use VR to check in for trainings and check out for trainings. And the reason we're moving to this is this helps us tremendously in that we don't have to enter people and re-enter their times in volunteer rescue. So you'll get, you'll get listed on the event, and your beginning time and ending time will be automatically checked in. And now DD will accept minutes at VR. So you don't have to check in on the half hour and the full hour. She will take, if you check in at 12:42, that's fine. Whereas before you had to be either 12:30 or 1. So we're making advances. Let me show you how to check in and out of VR. This is using your app, so you can do it by your phone. You're all familiar with the app from the left. When you get a call out, you go to recent call outs and see what it is and who's going there. This is where you send a response to the call out. Yes, I can go. Standby, or no, I can't go. Right down here is the check in and check out. So when you click on check in and check out, you come over to this screen. And this is an older screen. It's a screenshot I had from May. But you can see the current events, like this was the Baton Laundry search. This was a Senator Highway 89 search. This is a quad unit. You would pick the one that is for you. You click on this, check in, and then you'll get a screen where it's similar to this, but it'll say checking in, and you can correct your time here, like for trainings. And when you leave a mission or leave training, you would click this again, check out. You come to a screen like this. If the time is right, you just say check out. If it's not right, you can monitor it down here with this dial menu. Once you do it once, twice, it's really easy. So Peg or Heidi, anything else you want to say about this?
Yeah, I have a couple quick things. One thing is this, just so everyone is aware, this does not replace the actual sign-in sheets. Those are still required, and those should still be reflective of the half hours. You should only sign in on a half hour or an hour. And we also request that your mileage that you write on that sheet is rounded to the nearest 10 miles, or the round up to 10 miles, the closest 10 miles. So that is still a requirement. The thing that has changed is that we are no longer needing to have VR match what the sign-in sheet itself says. But along those same lines, please, if you forget to check in and you get to the training and you want to check in then, you can, as Tim said, adjust the time. And so you would backdate it or back time it, if you will, to the time that you actually left home. And the same thing on the check out when you get home. If you did not go straight home, or you forgot when you got home and you thought of it a half hour later, please back the time down to the appropriate time, or else we will continue to have to do maintenance to be close to the sign-in sheets. It's, can be very obvious that someone forgot to check out and they did it I think you have like a 4-hour window to check out after an event. So if you did 3 hours and you only lived half an hour away, obviously that's a misstatement of your hours. So we would need to correct it. So just take an extra minute, make sure that you're, if you're already checked in, don't check out right away. Wait until you're done. Okay.
Again,
And I-
we will practice this at the training on Saturday.
And I just would like to add that the time that you are checking out it will be, what you should record is the same as what you've recorded on the sign-in sheet. So, wherever you are, the amount of time that you are, it's going to take you to get home. That's what you write down on the sign-in sheet, and then, or checkout sheet, excuse me, the roster, and you just do that same time then when you get home.
But Heidi, you don't actually need to match that time anymore. If you get home, if you estimated what time you were on the sign-in sheet, but you got home 10 minutes earlier, you check out when you got home, or 10 minutes
Yes.
later. Yeah, so you don't need to match the time exactly, but it should be realistic for what you did when you signed out. Clear as
Okay.
mud, everyone?
And we will practice this Saturday, and we need to remind each other to check out of missions and training.
And I will say, when we had the Camp Verde, I think it was the Camp Verde search, because that was a delayed start, we did ask everyone to check in, and and I would say a good number of you did check in, and most of you checked out when you got home. So some of you have experienced this already. We just need to get better at reminding everyone and remembering to do it when we before we leave and when we get home.
This is Dennis with a question.
Sure, Dennis.
So is the best practice that you send a response to the call out, and then when you arrive at base, you not only sign in, but you also use your phone to check in at that moment and backdate the time? Or at what point do you actually check in versus respond to call out?
When it's a mission, you are automatically checked in when you say that, yes, you are responding to that mission. So that is totally fine. The only thing, when it's a mission, the only thing that you will do is you will check out when you get home. Another reason for that, which was a plus from the deputy side when we were looking at the systems, is that it allows them to see, once we get this going and people are doing it regularly, it allows them to know that everybody has gotten home. So that's another reason for it, if that helps you to remember to check out. Does that answer your question, Dennis?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And just to add one thing to that, the only time that there's an exception to the check-in has to do with what I call the delayed starts. So when, like for the Camp Verde, Matt issued the call out on a Sunday, and it was for a Wednesday. So that's why for that Wednesday we did ask everyone to check in for that, because otherwise you were checked in from when you said yes back on the 27th on the prior Sunday, and clearly that's not accurate. So that's why that first one was different.
Okay, good. Thank you, Peg and Heidi. And good question, Dennis. So again, we've been using VR to record hours for the whole past year, and it's consistent with the Sheriff's Office wanting to utilize VR for all search and rescue records in Yavapai County. However, last year, your hours were added and checked by people like myself and Peg and Heidi. And now we're at the state where we're at the state of using the VR that each of you can check in and check out on your own. And we're frankly sharing the workload of updating VR, and makes it much easier for everyone. Okay, thank you. And again, don't hesitate to remind us, did you check in? Did you check out? Until it's like, burned into our memory to do that.
And I just saw a chat from Gary asking if we, for training, do you check in when you leave home? And the answer is yes. But if you forget, when you get to the training, you can check in then, if someone, especially when we remind each other, and at that point, just back time it to when you left home.
Okay, so move on. Thank you. Okay, membership report. I'll cover the basics and then turn it over to you, Deneise. So right now we have 28 active members being on the call out. Amy Stearns has resigned. Amy, did her very best. She put her heart into it, but she told me that, just after a while, this wasn't for her. I said that I understand, Amy. You have to really want to do this. So Amy's has resigned, effective probably about 3 weeks ago. Deneise, I'll turn this over to you. We have 7 applicants in background check.
Okay. Yes, we still have James Reed, Kevin Brannick. They were in for 3 or 4 months before James Godwin, Brianna Schlager, Allie Pappas, Mark Carey, and Bernie Haycheck are the newest ones. And when I was at REI today, getting my new boots, the young man that waited on me, he's 26 years old, and he asked how he could join search and rescue. So his name is Justin Wixon. So I'll be getting an interview set up with him probably within the next 2 weeks.
Does he live in Yavapai County,
Yes, he does.
even though he works at REI? Okay.
Yeah. And our Karen Larson, her interview is tomorrow, and Ernie Turbyville, his interview is next Thursday. So they will have the interviews, and then we'll get their hike evaluation set up. And if everything is a go, then we'll move forward with the other processes.
And of those applicants and candidates, just to remind you, Bernie's with us tonight. Bernie and Bree as applicants are with us, and Karen or Ernie are both with us.
Yes.
So they're getting a picture of what VSAR looks like, at least from our meetings anyway. Okay, thank you. I think now would be a good time to talk about the what Adam told us about at least the YCSO plans for training for applicants once they clear background check. What Adam had told us is what Marv would like to do, and they're working it out within internally, is that much of the academy is online now through VR. However, we still need 1 day of academy training for the applicants to attend. And Marv would like that to be bi-monthly, which would really help with the flow through of applicants once they're past their background check. So they're still working on that. They want to schedule bi-monthly and then schedule the instructors. So that's a work in progress. Okay. Peg, turn it over to you for financial report.
Okay, so this report is for the month of February.
Sorry.
Oops, there you go. And we actually have $29,543 on hand. The net activity for the month was an increase of $2,568. Most of that was due to a distribution, which I'll talk about in a second here, from the fundraising efforts that we have going on through the auxiliary forces. The attached report just shows you the two incomes, which were the donation and the minor interest. We had no expenses this past month. So for those, I think we've talked about this before, there is a fundraising effort through the YCSO auxiliary force, which we are all a part of, along with YCSRT, G Posse, Air Group, and the VIPs are all part of the auxiliary force, this joint fundraising that we started back in 2018. And we still are receiving money, even though we did not do a campaign last year. We were able to distribute $15,000 to our members, to our participating units just in February. But that's still left over $25,000 in the joint fund, which will more than cover the expenses for the 2021 campaign, which we have now started. And this makes the fundraising effort what I call self-funding. VSAR initially made an investment, as did the other units. Those investments have been paid back to us already. So everything that we are receiving is basically considered a profit at this point. And we are leaving enough money in there each year to cover the next year's projected expenses. So it's become a really, really good fundraising effort for us. So the $2,500 donation that we received was really a distribution from the prior year's campaigns from this. The other thing is that our member dues for all members are due theoretically by April 1st, although I certainly collect past April 1st. We don't require them to be in place by the 1st. And it's only for members that have completed SAR Basic. So if you're an applicant or something, don't worry about it. It doesn't happen until you have completed Basic. Then you would pay your dues at that time. $10 a year on our fiscal year, which is April 1st through March 30th. Please, if you're coming to the training on the 13th, and if if the weather doesn't cause us any issues, remember to bring your $10 there and I can collect it there. Or next time I see you at a search or something, I can collect it. Or you can always just mail it to the P.O. box in Cottonwood. Check or cash, either one is fine there.
Peg, can we still
as a
PayPal
final-
you?
I suppose, I guess we could.
Okay. I did that last time, so I'm just like.
Yeah, we did that last time. Yeah, and that's certainly doable. The fees are so minor, it's insignificant. So yeah, that would actually you would actually PayPal it to my personal account, and then I would take those funds and deposit them into the VSAR account. So it would be just emailing the PayPal to pkern31, my email address basically. And if there's enough, I'll go on a vacation. No, I wouldn't go on vacation. And then the other comment, just for those of you, this is really geared towards the board members that spend money on behalf of the unit. Please submit any outstanding requests for reimbursements since our fiscal year does end March 31st. So try to get those to me soon so that I can cut those checks and we can have those recorded in the year to which the expenses applied.
Okay.
And that's just a recap of the fundraising effort that shows the 2018 campaign, and then the 2019/20 / the start of 21 campaign. You can see total donations that have been received is almost $81,000 over expenses of almost $33,000. So a very nice profit from a mailing campaign. So that just gives you a quick status of what those funds are, with over 25,000 held on account. We did receive since the campaign started, we've gotten 1,280 donations with an average donation of over $63 per donation. So that's darn good in the marketing world of campaign fundraising. Okay. And then that's just the detailed report that just shows you the amount in the checking account and the amount in the savings account for total at this point.
Okay, good. And because I always am reminded.
Very good. Excellent.
But a reminder for myself, we need 2 board motions. We need board approval of the February financial report as Peg had just presented, subject to audit. And then after that, we'll vote on the minutes. So do I have a motion to approve the February financial report as presented, subject to audit?
I make a motion.
Who is that? Dave?
Dave McCoy.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Daryl, okay. So I have Dave has made the motion to approve the February financial report subject to audit. It's been seconded. All board members in favor say aye.
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 Any board members not in favor say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, Rick, as secretary, it's the February financial reports has been approved unanimously. Now, board approval. Do I have a motion to approve the February meeting minutes that Rick sent out after the last meeting?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for February.
I'll
Okay,
second
Denise.
that.
Who seconded that?
Gary.
Gary, thank you, Gary. Okay, I have a motion to approve the February meeting minutes as Rick sent out. It's been seconded. All board members in favor of approval say aye.
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 Any board member not in approval say nay. Any board member that wants to abstain from vote? Okay, Rick, the February meeting minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we get into an important business.
Hey, Tim? Tim?
Yes, Rick?
I don't know, and Peg could confirm this. I think normally at this time of the year, we look for somebody that is going to audit the financials. So I don't know if you just want to throw that out there and ask for a volunteer for that, or, it doesn't have to be done tonight, but at some point in time, we don't want to forget that.
Yeah, that's correct. We normally do try to get a volunteer, which is in the last 4 or 5 years has been Rick. So that's a bit of a problem this time, unless you want that to be your final act before you leave.
What I suggest is if we try to get a volunteer that Rick can mentor,
Yeah.
okay? That way Rick can pass on his knowledge about audits. Would that be okay with you, Rick, if you help a volunteer?
Sure, you bet.
Okay, so now the hard part. Can we have a volunteer to work with Rick to audit the 2020 financial report? Don't all speak at once. I can't hear you.
How hard is it, Rick?
Sorry, Denise.
How hard is it?
It takes about 2 weeks to do.
Ah,
No, I'm just kidding. It actually takes probably about 2 hours.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay, thank you, Denise. So we have a volunteer to audit the report with Rick's mentorship. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Rick, for reminding me it's time to do that. Okay, now here's the big business item of tonight. Oh, Marva just entered. Okay. So you'll recall that the nomination committee for officer selection for VSAR was formed in December. In February, they presented their nomination committee selections, who they would nominate to the 6 lieutenant positions and 6 sergeant positions that are up for election. The election is held as per our bylaws in March, and they're held when there's a 50% quorum of members available, which we do have tonight, and it's a member majority that elects the officers. April 1st, the elected officers begin their role. As a reminder, the captain serves a 1-year term, and the 6 lieutenants each serve 1 year, so they are re-nominated. New nominees, the same or additional nominee is nominated and elected every year. Of the 10 sergeants, each serve 2-year terms with a staggered election of 5 per year. Now I'll remind you, let's see here. I put all the nominees into the organogram, and I'm going to take a minute to review the new organization that we are moving into effective April and who the nominees are. And when I finish this, we will take a single vote. Well, first I will ask for, is there additional nominations? We can have any nominations from the floor for any of these positions. And if that would be so, Rick and I can tell you how we'll handle that by other voting. But what I propose is that we vote on these nominees as a block. I will ask, do the membership approve of the nominees for each of these positions? And the members will answer with a yes or a no. Okay, but first let me review the organization and who the nominees are. So captain, I am the nominee. With Rick's retirement, we will not have a past captain role this year. The first lieutenant, assistant captain, we decided to leave that vacant for this year, as there is no one that was really absolutely, ready to move right into that position. We will be growing people for that position. Jill is a nominee for our second lieutenant training and safety. This is the role that Peg Cook has been doing so well this very past year. Dave McCoy is the nominee for second lieutenant of specialty units, and this is a new position this year because of our new units, the 4x4 unit sergeant, the search dog unit sergeant, and the mountain bike sergeant will report to Dave, assuming he is selected for that role as lieutenant of specialty units. Lieutenant of operations, the nominee is Bob Schumann. That is also a new role. The lieutenant of operations is responsible for the base operations, communications, membership, and supply. The nominee for the second lieutenant secretary position is Deneise. Deneise would be moving from her sergeant of membership role, which she did, her membership role, which she did admirably, superb, to move into the secretary role as a lieutenant. Peg is the nominee for treasurer. So those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lieutenant positions and a captain that we'll be voting on tonight. Gary is current sergeant medical. He will stay in that role. He's not up for election. Peg Cook is the nominee for sergeant of orientation hike. Bob Schumann filled that role earlier. Don Morgan is the nominee for sergeant of training. Dondi is nominee for sergeant of 4x4 unit. Kamiko is nominee for sergeant of search dog unit. Mike Harris, nominee for sergeant of mountain bike unit. Mike will stay in the role of base operations. That's not up for election. Daryl will stay in communications, also not up for election. Tori was the nominee for membership role, previously filled by Deneise. And Heidi will stay in sergeant of supply, also not up for election. So now is the time when I either call for any questions about these positions or any nominations from the floor for these roles.
Hey, Tim.
Yes, Rick.
Yeah, just a couple of comments, I guess. Sergeant positions are generally 2 years. We do have a situation here for the mountain bike unit. In order to balance, to have 5 elected 1 year and 5 elected the next year, the mountain bike unit Sergeant Mike would be in his role for 1 year. And the other one that would be 1 year will be Tori, because she is finishing out the term for Deneise.
Thank you. Okay. Which means they can also be nominees for next year too. That's right. Okay. Any nominees from the floor for any of these positions?
I think the nominating committee did a superb job in coming up with a slate of nominees. So thank you for your efforts.
They did indeed. Okay, hearing no nominees from the floor, I move that the membership vote on acceptance of this slate of candidates in entirety. If the members agree with this slate, I want you to say yes.
Yeah.
Even though
Yes.
you're on mute.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
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 And yes.
Okay, Rick, I assume you counted those yeses.
Yes.
Okay. Any members who are not in favor of the slate, say no. Okay, I think we can ask, we don't need to ask if members of, any members abstain from voting.
Because this
Okay,
was an
so-
all member vote. It wasn't just a board vote, right?
This is an all-member vote, and for this, to remind you, we had a 50% quorum. Before the election could be valid, we needed to have 50% of the members in attendance at the meeting. Okay, we have met that quorum, and so this vote by our bylaws is a legal vote. And so we've met the quorum, and the members have approved this slate by a majority vote. So these officers have all been selected. Congratulations. You will begin your role April 1st. And I will be sending out a note to each of you because I want an officer meeting between now and April. We will be doing it at Jill's Spirit Pony Ranch at the VSAR Training Center. I will try to pick a day when most of the lieutenants and sergeants are available. And during that day, we'll talk about our jobs, our roles, what the past year has been like, and what our vision is for upcoming year. And I'll ask each new officer to tell me about their job, tell the group about their job, and what they envision doing in their role for the year. So it'll be a planning for the year. I think it'll be really good for us to get together and talk about VSAR and how we each have our collective ideas of what we could do differently or better. They're still coming back in. Okay, thank you for that vote. And I look forward to working with all the new lieutenants and sergeants in our new organization. Okay, let's go to mission reports. These are the missions since our last meeting. I have the ones in red I picked out to talk about in more detail, as I believe they have some clear lessons for us. So we had the vaccine clinic, snow transport. I don't know how much snow Prescott will be getting tomorrow or the next day. We might have something like that again, but we had a vaccine clinic where a number of units, both in VSAR, YCSRT, and Jeep were asked for snow transport in Prescott. We had a call out to Bell Trail for an injured hiker, most of which Copper Canyon Fire Department handled. We had a Bell Rock call out, lost hikers, a couple that got lost up there after dark. I think the notable part of that is that our 80-year-old senior member led that hike. So each of us should be leading the hikes like that when we're 80 years old. Devil's Bridge, we had a missing hiker. And as we were getting ready to go back to the Devil's Bridge trailhead, the lady walked out. She walked down the road on her own. She walked into this huge amass of sheriff's vehicles and VSAR vehicles. And we saw this person coming down the road in the headlights. I said, is that her? And her whole family was there worried about her, and they ran out to get her, and that was her. Boynton Canyon, we had an Alzheimer's male that was called out later afternoon. There's probably an hour and a half of daylight left. As we were at the Boynton trailhead getting ready to go out, one of the subject's sons actually was on the phone with his mom, and his mom had found him, in the mile or so beyond Enchantment. So we stopped that search. A few of us waited just to make sure that he got there, and he did get there with his dog and his family. So we had a nighttime call out to Robbers Roost. And this was not the typical Robbers Roost call out where they're actually on the little mountain of Robbers Roost or around the cave. This is a lost male hiker that had started out at 5 o'clock to hike on his own to hike to Robbers Roost. He never did find it, but he got lost northeast of Robbers Roost. And I'll talk about a lesson on that. Soldiers Pass, nighttime for 2 lost female hikers. I think we did a great job in finding those 2 females. We had Adam had a Bloody Basin Sheep's Bridge call out for overdue hikers. We had 2 vehicles heading there to liaison with a contact at Sheep's Bridge, but it was stood down after about 30 minutes. We had a Camp Verde evidence search that I'll talk about, and I'll have Peg talk about some lessons after I cover that. And then the mission that we had to reschedule this meeting for turned out to be a pretty big search, a pretty important one in Boynton Canyon, Mushroom Rock area for a lost female hiker, and we'll talk about that. So we'll talk about lessons on 3 missions now. This is just a picture showing actually Michael and Jill and Al, Michael's vehicle, in the vaccine clinic snow transport. So you can see there was a lot of snow, a lot of snow there. Now the lessons learned from the Robbers Roost call out. Let me orientate you for the map on the right. This is Robbers Roost. The cave is like over here. And usually what we do is we drive up this trail. People going to Robbers Roost drive up this trail. This is the parking lot. This is the trailhead. You park your cars here. And then this is actually a trek over to, this looks like to be on top. This is the truck I had to go on top of Robbers Roost. So this is where most people park, and this is where most people go. And most of the searches, are around in this area. In this case, the subject was located here. He left his car at the 525, 9530 entrance, and somehow walked all the way out here and missed Robbers Roost. This is where his coordinates were. And actually there had been deputies, 2 non-force patrol deputies that had been looking for him. They were looking around this area, and the subject kept moving. They told him so many times, please keep still. They had to re-ping him because he kept moving. He wouldn't obey the command to please stay there so we can find you. And so those deputies finally gave up, and then they called Heath. Heath got there and called us. Heath called us and we got there. And the subject kept playing music on his phone. which is not a wise thing if you want to keep your battery live on your phone, you know, for GPS and calls. He kept moving and he kept playing music on his phone. So this is, you know, let's say not good subject behavior. Now, the unique part of this robber's roost was his search plan was because the subject was here, that we would actually need 4x4s to drive up this 9530 road, park at the end of it, base, and then hike to the subject, versus parking here and hiking this way. Well, what we found out is this was an extremely gnarly road, gnarly being, you know, dangerous, you know, rough. It's rougher than most of us knew about, and some of us didn't even know that this road was open. So this is I actually have a photo here. So this is actually the subject with a rather tall, maybe magician's hat on. You see his warmth was his blankets that he had covered, you know, coats. I think right here he's showing Heath something on his phone, and Heath is showing interest. This is after he was back. We did get to him when we found him, and he was playing music as we found him. And I asked him, could you please turn the music off? And he said, yeah, and then he didn't. And then I said, could you please turn the music off so we can communicate? And then he finally did. And maybe it kept him calm. This was the gnarly road, and this is a minor, you know, bumps. This is minor compared, but going there at night, I think Bob got a rock in his vehicle. I got a rock on the side of my vehicle, so it was very close. And there were some areas, I remember Heath was in front of me. There was one time when Heath's rear left wheel was 3 feet off the ground because of the slope he was going down. So what we learned there was that, you know, we had 4 vehicles. VSAR went up there first and Heath came up later. We had 4 vehicles, 2 of which had a single driver. It's because we went there in 4 vehicles and we decided let's continue in the 4 vehicles. In the future, we want to have 2 members per vehicle. So we should have had 1 member jump into another so that one can be an observer and guide them through rocks if needed be a spotter. So it turned out okay, but in the future, we want to make sure we have 2 members per vehicle. Anyone else on that search want to add any lessons that they had? No. Actually, that's the picture after the search. This is the nighttime picture at that end of 9530. Dondi, actually Dondi did a great job leading us back. That was like Dondi's first call out for a subject, and Dondi used Gaia to lead us back, and she got us back. But thanks to Dondi. Okay, so that's Robber's Roost. The next was the Camp Verde evidence search. This was a assist for the Camp Verde Marshal's office. This is what the terrain was like. Actually, this is pretty open terrain compared to what most of it was like. And the evidence search was to assist Camp Verde Marshals in finding some evidence of a year-old case. You can actually go to the map. In these grids, there was probable location of evidence of clothing that a subject, a victim had left and buried under dirt and puts a rock on top. And the marshal's office needed that clothing as as key evidence in this case. Otherwise, they were going to have to drop the case. So we had good attendance from VSAR. We had some attendance from the YCSRT dog unit, and we were assigned, you know, the red areas are where we were assigned, and we did a grid search, line search for that clothing. You know, it was supposed to be a pink top, jeans, white shoes. We searched each of these areas and did not find any, well, we found some clues, but nothing that said, hey, that's it. It could be possibly be, we collected it. The marshal is going to show it to the subject. But the lesson here is not so much searching the assigned areas, but what happened after we finished our assignment. And actually we had enough time, and we had extra time. We're done maybe at 2 o'clock with our assigned areas. And there was members that stayed to see if there was something else they could do. And Peg Curran, let me turn it over to you. Maybe you were one of the members there.
Yep.
Maybe you can tell us what happened. after
Sure.
that.
Yeah, so when the team that I was on had completed the segment 5, which is an area close to where base was, there was basically our teams that were there were split up, and some members went to, actually that's a good map there. So so when we completed our segment and went back to base for a brief break, some of our members joined the other team, Tim's team, to help search in areas 7 and 8 along the perimeter, along the edge there. So, and we were able to go and basically we had to take the lieutenant from the marshal's office back to a piece of clue that we had found, a piece of clothing that we had found in segment 5. So we basically ended up splitting up a bit. When those of us that had stayed behind from the last search were done, we got a bite to eat, and then we asked Sergeant Klein, I believe, whether or not there was anything else that we could do. And he said, well, actually, there's one more area that we haven't really searched yet. It wasn't one that was segmented. And if you look to the right, underneath that real skinny segment 2, that one we had searched already. But he said the rest of that area between those roads had not been searched, and were we willing to go out and maybe do a grid search there? And so we said, absolutely. You know, if we can be of a help to try and help close this case, we want to do that. This is an area that was close to the subject's homes. The homes that are on the right there are where both the subject and the potential suspect lived or lived. And so there was some possibility that there had been activity in here. So we, those of us that were still back at base at that point, headed over to here. And then when the some other team members from the rest of the group that had completed the search along 6 and 7, we had actually 2 or 3 of those people come join us also. So it was a good turnout. I think we had 6 or 7 people go to this new segment. And the important thing was that as we searched it, we actually came across 2 potentially significant clues near the end of our last pass. We did find the sole of a shoe that was a white shoe that was the size of the potential subject, although we didn't know the subject's size per se, but it fit in the realm of what it could have been. And we felt that was pretty significant. And so we called it in and marked it, of course. And then within a matter of literally not even a minute later, we came across another piece of evidence that on first glance, we all said, oh, that looks like a part of a sheet. And so we said, well, do we call it in? We said, well, you know, it's so close to the other one. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and mark it and call this in too. And it turned out that the lieutenant from the Kent Marshal's office was actually there with us, but he was staying in his quad because he couldn't leave the evidence that he had already collected. He didn't want to leave that unattended. So he was close by. So, and we were at that point very close to the road, finishing up that piece of the segment. So we actually went over and talked to him and brought him back. And when we came back to that evidence, he looked at the shoe and he said, yep, that's potential. So he bagged it and collected the evidence. And then we said, well, this other one we're not so sure about. And he said, well, let me see it and let's deal with it. So he said, yeah, that's worth collecting. Well, so we started digging it out, and it looked like a white, kind of a dirty white sheet, small, not more like a pillowcase. And as we got to the part that was buried in the soil, it suddenly became evident that this was a pink color. So there is potential that this was in fact one of the pieces of clothing, although we do not have any confirmation of that or anything. But it became what could be a significant find. And it turns out it was in an area that was not initially planned to be searched. So the lesson there really is, to the extent we have some energy left and a willingness, anything we can do to search more areas could become very beneficial.
And Peg, that whiteness, discounted it because you're looking for something pink, but the whiteness was actually, it was sun bleached for a whole year.
That's right. And it wasn't that we weren't limiting what we were looking for. There were clear instructions that any clothing we found was to be, brought in, but it really struck us all as a sheet. It just looked like it was a sheet from the fabric and the color. And that's why we said, well, and it looked like it was too much material, but it turned out as we it was buried. Oh, and the other significant thing that was found that the lieutenant was extremely interested in, when we did find it, it was under dirt with some of it, a little bit of it showing, but more importantly, there was a palm-sized rock on top of it. And that matched the description of what the subject had indicated she had done when she did bury it. She said she placed a palm-sized rock on top of it. So, and there were very few rocks around that particular area. So that's the other thing that gave the lieutenant some potential hope that this was in fact a significant piece of evidence.
Okay. So I think the lessons there I would summarize is that if an original mission is completed and you still have sufficient time in the day, have sufficient time in your schedule, ask if there's more you can help with, particularly if the mission thus far had not yielded sufficient results, which we didn't think we had at that time. And for evidence searches, use a very keen eye and check items, even if they don't match description of what you're looking for. That's not exactly what happened here because you saw the white and it was clothing, you're going to look at it anyway, but you just need to check everything because it's been out there a year. You don't know what animals have messed with it. You don't know what dirt has covered it up. So I just thought this was an excellent example of going beyond what he'd been asked to do, and it may have been productive for the marshal's office. So Marv, I think you're on. Do you know any more about that by any chance?
Yeah, so I talked to the detective today. He met with the victim one time, and he's going to meet with her again. There may be additional information. There was a location that was that's brought up. It's going to be probably in the search area or in that area that was searched that was not segmented, that Peg was just talking about.
Okay.
So it's going to be right around there. So the detective and Matt are putting together all the tracks and checking to see if it's an area that either had some holes in it or maybe didn't get searched as well. The victim did say she described the location a little bit better, and she did mention a couple little landmarks that they're looking into that she recognized as being close to where she was. So it may narrow that way down. And then they're going to look at the map and see if we're probably going to do another search. It'll be much more, smaller area that has the other clues that they got. But the detective's going to meet with her again. He did when he first met with her. It was kind of like let her know that we're still working on it. He took some photos of you guys out there searching and all the searchers, and showed her photos, from a distance, of all the people that came out, and she could not believe all those people that came out to, help prove, her story of events. And from being in CI, I'll tell you that right there, showing a victim that they're not alone in a time like this, and that they have that type of support, is probably does more for her healing process than any conviction that you're going to get. We like to get both. When I was in CI, we like to get both, but many times the victims just seeing that they have people that believe them, that support them, and that are willing to go through that helps them in their healing process greatly. So I just want to pass that along, that, even if some of these cases are super hard to prove, and if this case doesn't go any further, which we hope it still does, it made a big difference out there.
Okay. Thank you, Marv. And so we'll expect, I guess, to watch for a possible call out for another evidence search.
Yeah, so they're gonna get together because the weather coming in, and this isn't anything that's urgent, you know. There's no humans missing out there or anything. Matt and the detective are gonna get together. I believe they said either Friday or next week. So it's probably gonna be either late next week or even the week after that we'll probably
Okay,
do another if we
good.
need to.
Okay, good. And Marv, you look like you're in your vehicle. You're on duty tonight, calling from your vehicle?
I know I was just at a YCSRT meeting.
Oh, yes,
And
okay.
so as soon as I walked out of there, I logged into this while I was driving home.
Thank you. Okay.
So
Thanks for that additional story. Okay.
no problem.
The last mission we're going to talk about tonight is the one for Monday. And I'm just going to show one diagram. This is Mushroom. This is Boynton Canyon. This is the Mushroom turnoff. Boynton Trail keeps going this way. Mushroom Rock is probably right up in here. Okay. And this is the typical trail to get up to Mushroom. It takes about 2 hours from Enchantment, and it's about 4 miles to get up there. And I would say 500 to 800 elevation change. Adam had this call out for Monday evening, a 20-year-old female, coordinates right here. Female was dressed in shorts and like t-shirt, sports bra. She called like 4-ish, I think. And so we had we got there at 4:30. And we maybe had 1.5 to 2 hours of daylight left when we started. So I'm going to talk about just the high level of the search, and then I'll go to lessons, but I'm going to ask people like Deneise and Daryl, who actually were on the team that found the subject, to talk us through what the search was like. You know, the lessons, I guess the very high level of the strategy was that we had 12 people that night, 12 VSAR searchers. We created 2 teams of 5 and 1 team of 2 just based on arrival of members. Team 1 proceeded to the subject's coordinates at about 5 o'clock. That was plan A. Send 1 team off. They're ready. Send them to get to the subject as fast as we could. The remaining 2 teams, team 2 and 3, were left within 5, 10, 15 minutes after team 1. And Adam deployed them to the Boynton Trail at the Mushroom Trail turnoff, and then asked them to stay there. They were situated for backup. So Adam would say that teams 2 and 3 were plan B. They were deployed to assess team 1 after voice contact was made with the subject. But this is a canyon where particularly it can be hard to see on your GPS which area of the canyon the subject actually is. And we've had that experience with Boynton Canyon before, where a team thought they were in a certain canyon and it turned out to be a canyon over. And we didn't want to send everyone to one location and I guess expend all of our resources on one direction, one coordinate, until we actually got contact with the subject. Because if she wasn't there, we wanted the other team to rapidly deploy to other parts of the canyon. When they reached the subject, she was hypothermic, shivering, hungry, and she required first aid prior to warm clothing could be applied. She had 20 to 30 cactus spines in her left leg that required removal before pants could be put on her. Subject was warm and fed, then walked to Enchantment Trailhead. Now that's a very, very high level. And then I have lessons, Deneise and Daryl, that I'll summarize after you talk about what do you think VSAR should know about this particular search? Deneise, I'll ask you first.
I asked Daryl first.
Okay, ask Daryl first. Okay.
Thank you, Deneise.
Daryl.
Well, I think the first thing is that anyone who's been to Mushroom knows it's a pretty gnarly climb at the best of times. So it was a difficult climb to get up there, and of course we had to go even higher to find the subject. And by that time it was pretty much dusk. We were scratching our heads a little bit to find out which ledge we should be on, because we actually tried calling to her, but the breeze was so strong that either she couldn't hear us or we couldn't hear her reply. So calls and whistles really were fruitless. Other than one time we heard a faint cry in the distance, when we were actually just before we got to the mushroom. And then when we got to the mushroom, we'd lost her completely. So the GPS coordinates said she was on the other side of that little mini canyon you can see there.
Right there.
Yeah. And we went across there, and fortunately, she turned her cell phone light on, and that's how we actually saw her initially. So we basically got pretty close to her, and then we left Deneise and Jennifer stayed put. So we'd have a light beacon to work back to, that, you know, to kind of find the path we'd use to get there. And then the other three of us basically climbed down to her. She was about probably 40 feet, maybe 45 feet below us. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like a rock ledge, but it was fairly steep and very loose stone. So yeah, that's how we got to her. And then basically we got her back to where all the team was assembled. And then Deneise and Jennifer did a great job of the first aid, taking the spines out. We got some warm clothing on her, and then basically walked her back down the mushroom back to meet up with team 2 and then team 3. But I would like to say very briefly that having those 2 teams available was great, because if we'd got in trouble ourselves, or even worse, the subject had been injured, we would definitely need those 2 teams to help carry her down, if that was even practical. Let alone, you know, being redeployed if we were in the wrong position anyway. So I think the staging those 2 teams was strategically done, and it was actually a very, very good call on Adam's part, actually. Deneise, now it's your turn.
Okay. I agree with everything you said. I had not been to the mushroom before, and it was exactly where Tim pointed to in that area.
Right here.
And we had been calling out and blowing whistles pretty much all the way up. And with the wind, we realized that it was probably blowing away, so she wasn't hearing us. But prior to climbing the mushroom, as Daryl said, we called out and she answered. But once we got on top of the mushroom, there was no communication with her. So getting over, it was pretty gnarly getting over to that area, those ledges, lots of loose rock and stuff. So, and the wind picked up really, really strongly. So Jennifer and I, you know, we stayed back, like Daryl said, on that one ledge, because they had to go around and then drop down to get to where she was. So it's good to break your team members apart at that time, especially at night, and have the lights on so that you've got a point of where you're coming back up. And I agree with the lights that we could see of both teams really helped us, because from where we were at the very end over there and climbing back across to get to the mushroom, it was so pitch black dark, you could not see the mushroom rock. So we just kind of worked our way, and Bob and I found our footprints. So we actually were tracking, because there were places where we weren't sure, you know, some of it looks familiar, but then times it doesn't look familiar. And we actually picked up our footprints, which we went, okay, we went down here because this is where we came up. So we were able to backtrack on that, plus using our GPSs all the time. So, putting a pair of tweezers in your first aid kits, guys, or a pair of pliers really helps, because those, when you get prickly pear in you, you can't put clothes over top of it. It's really painful. So we took the time and picked it out, and Jennifer did a great job from our wilderness first aid class. She talked with the subject intensely, and the subject was, you know, starting to kind of get a little panicky. And so we were able to calm her down, and Jennifer had her talking a good part of the way coming down, and it kept her calm. And, you know, kind of took her mind off because she wasn't quite so sure-footed in the beginning from being cold. And she didn't want to drink liquids because then she would have to output what she's putting in. So we kind of remedied all those things and were able to come down successfully. So it was a great team effort. And it was really nice to get down those ledges and get to team 2 and then to team 3. Okay.
Thank you, Denise and Daryl. I think from my estimate, it took about 2 hours to get up to her and about 2 hours to get down.
Yeah.
And that, you know, then there's the time when you were doing the first aid and getting her warmed and fed. Okay, so the lessons, as I would summarize them, is when in a mountainous area or a multi-canyon area, don't deploy all your resources to one location, just in case the coordinates are not correct, or it is difficult to discern exact canyon location on your GPS. Find out all you can about the subject, consider the environment, and prepare for the subject needs. Adam advised us that she was in shorts and a sports bra. So the team took a warm sweatshirt, jacket, and pants up for her. And normally, you know, many teams may not have had pants, for example. But we talked about this before the teams left, and everyone, you know, got the clothing for the subject. And have large enough teams so that a team of 4 to 6 can split into 2 to 3 sub-teams. As you heard, team 1 left 2 members at a critical junction point so they could be a beacon for the way back. Okay. So Adam, I think hopefully you're still on. Do you have anything to add to this? Talk about strategy, how this turned out from your perspective.
You pretty much covered, I think, everything. Yeah, it was, we know from past experience that it's really easy to take the wrong, well, you guys took the right trail this time, but you can, you know, you can take one wash too far up or downstream and just can't get to the subject. So that was the reasoning for splitting the team. And I think that's a strategy we should use anytime we get a call up where somebody's up near the top or at the top of the canyon, because that lower team can either help support or adjust to go to a different area if the first team can't access the subject.
Thank you, Adam. I think that the team's did an outstanding job, and this was a particularly tough place. This is one of the, I would say, one of the toughest places and rescues that we've had lately. So, thank you.
Tim.
I want to add that when the subject put her light on for us, there was another light that was, say her light was here and there was another light over here. So we weren't sure what that other light was. And it actually, the other light was pretty much in the location of where that Keyhole Canyon is. So somebody else was out there. So one of our teams might have gotten into a situation, you know, that subject out there could have gotten into a situation, then called Adam, and then one of them might have been deployed to go out there. So yeah.
Tim, can I make one observation?
Yes.
So on the hike up to Mushroom, one of the team members, a team member possibly, keep keying the radio up. I don't think it was our team because Adam's transmission overrode it, but it was there anyway. So I just want to bring it home to people that with these radios, it's no good just keeping the microphone, and everyone see that, it's no good just keeping the microphone safe. You've also got to keep the radio safe, because the press to talk on the side of the radio will also work at the same time. So if your radio is not in a pouch or in a pocket where it can be jostled around, that could cause a problem and you could be transmitting without knowing it. That's all we're going to say.
Yeah, Daryl, I've experienced that. When I put it in my radio into a tight pocket, the tight pocket presses the transmit button when your body moves.
Yeah.
And then you transmit. So
Tim, I got a question.
Sure.
She was found above the mushroom. when the team walked her out during the conversation, did she say where she was trying to go?
Yeah. She was trying to get to that. She was looking for the, what was it? Hawkhead
Which is right here.
Ruins. Hawkhead Ruins is what she was trying to find. There's a Hawk Rock or a Hawkhead Rock.
Which I think is right here, Denise, right there.
Yes, that's where she was trying to get to. And what she was using was all trails. So, and she knew nothing about how quickly it got cold when it started to get dark. She had hiked Wilson Mountain and Bell Rock and Cathedral Rock, and it didn't have any difficulties with any of those. So she had it in her mind that she was just going to climb everywhere and just kind of hit any canyon or trail that she could. So I think that she learned a really good lesson from this, and will be a lot more prepared in the future.
Very good. And now because of Team One, she has a future. She may not have made it through the night with that hypothermia because cold as it would have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that summary. Haig, Cook, can you talk about training? I think this is the last thing, and then we'll go to the story that I want to tell you. Hey, Cook, you might be on mute. Hey, Cook, you might be gone. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, okay.
So this Saturday, we're going to do the land navigation map and compass training, maybe. The weather doesn't look very good, so please be careful and watch for emails. Al and I will converse on Friday night. Right now, it looks like it could rain or snow, and the temperature looks really bad. But if it goes, we will be at Jill's Spirit Pony Ranch on Saturday morning, starting at 9. And because we needed to cancel our last meeting where Al was going to do the classroom presentation, we're going to take that to Saturday morning also. So hopefully it will go and we'll be able to do the field training also. But we may do a combination of part of it and all of it, or so just stay tuned and please watch for a notice if it's going to be canceled or rescheduled. Then our orientation hike is going to be a combination of 4x4 and ground pounders on March 26th. And that is going to be to Secret Mountain. That's another rescheduled orientation hike. And we will meet at the library at 8:30 so we can carpool down that crazy road. So those are the only two things that are happening in the rest of March.
Okay, thank you, Peg.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, now for the story. Now, this story is it's a unique story. It goes to an old mission, a Devil's Bridge mission from 5.5 months ago, last September. It involves a Devil's Bridge mission from midnight to 4 in the morning. It involves a poor decision. And I can say that because it was a poor decision on my part. It involves an injury.
Mm-hmm.
It involves 5.5 months later, still an injury. It involves a surgeon's visit and a surprise at the surgeon's visit and a lesson. And let me just tell you this story, and the thing I want to show you is not for the squeamish. But I wanted to show you this today because this applies to every single one of us, okay? Every single one of us. So let me just acquaint you with that mission. This was a young man. had made his way to Devil's Bridge. So just for orientation, this is Capitol Butte. Devil's Bridge is right here. This is that gnarly road that Peg Cook was just saying that we would meet at 8:30 on Saturday to Secret Canyon to drive up. Here's Devil's Bridge Trailhead, Devil's Bridge Trail, and Devil's Bridge. And this is full of hundreds of people on many days. This young man missed the turn down. He started going up the mountain, and for some reason he thought that the trailhead was higher. He kept going higher, 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 and he got ledged out on a rock up here. He had no cell phone. He had no coordinates for him. He called 911 on his Apple Watch. He was fortunate he had that. He said he'd left his cell phone. He set it on a rock down here before he started hiking. I don't know why. The only source we had of him was his headlight, a very weak headlight. You'll remember this search because this is where we deployed the green laser. Okay, the green laser was used by the team here because they couldn't see his light. It was behind, because of the train, they couldn't see his weak headlight, but base could. And so we use a green laser to say, is he to the right or left or where the laser is, and base could orientate us. So that's just for orientation of the hike, of the search. The searchers were Dan, Stephen, Deneise, and myself. And yeah, so we got to the guy. He was very cold and shivering, also in shorts. And we walked him down, and that was probably 2.5 hours up and 2 hours down. And Deneise, that was another hard one, wasn't it? Yeah, and Stephen. So kind of like a tough, midnight to 4 p.m. search. The subject of the story is myself. But 2 or 3 days later, I noticed that I had a puncture wound in my left calf. I thought, oh, an agave got me. And I noticed it because it hurt, and I had pain from that puncture wound all the way down to the bottom of my foot. It's like when you hit a crazy bone and you get that electric shock. Every time I touched my leg, or I couldn't even wear a sock or foot or a shoe, there's electric shock all the way from that puncture wound all the way down to my foot. That lasted about 2 weeks. I think Daryl and Al, you'll remember, I couldn't go on the mini hands hike with you because of that injury. So I kept thinking, okay, it'll get better. And it did get better. This is the way it looked yesterday. Okay, yeah, but it was still a puncture wound that wouldn't heal. It was still drain, reddish fluid. My boot was like right here and sock right here, and it hurt. Swollen and hurt and drained fluid. And finally, I went to the surgeon today. And that's what I want to show you. So the next part is not for the squeamish. Okay. But it's important that I tell you this because it imparts an important behavior that we need to start happening. And so let me just show you. I went to the surgeon today because it had been too long. It was draining. It was hurting. It was affecting my, my life. This was the surgeon today. You can see where the puncture wound is. So you can see, some people's boots would be here. That's where mine was. Now I wear boots that are about up to here. I've got higher boots because of this. That's where the wound was. Now we're going to go actually into the surgery. And I'm only showing you this to impress upon you what we found. This is the surgeon. You will remember the purple area here, purple circle. This is the surgeon beginning excision. Okay. The surgeon then excised, said, hey, there's a cavity here. And a bunch of red fluid came out. As she was exploring the cavity, something dark showed up. And then she said, oh my goodness, what's that? She pulled it out with her tweezers. And this is what came out. This is an agave spine. It's probably about 1.25 inches long. And it was down in my leg. It had been there for 5.5 months. This is the size of the agave spine. This is about 3 centimeters. So very sharp. That had just been sitting in my leg, festering for 5.5 months. And I was shocked when it came out. When she brought that thing out, she said this is the biggest foreign object she's ever removed from anybody. So the lesson of the story is wear gaiters, especially at night. If I was wearing gaiters, that probably would not have happened. My poor decision was, in my rush to get to the subject, I decided not to take the 5 to 10 minutes to put on gaiters. That was a poor decision. And don't neglect chronic wounds. I was always hoping, okay, now this will get better. It looks like it's getting better. It's not quite as big as it used to be. We'll just give it another week. And I finally decided there's enough of that. And always report your injury incidents to the deputy. I did report this to Adam, but it wasn't probably until the Friday when this occurred on Monday when I saw him, because it didn't happen to me. I didn't even notice I had it till about 2 days. And then it started swelling and the nerve pain happened. So, you know, I normally wouldn't do this, but I wanted to share those pictures with you just to show you that that agave punctured in my leg, I did not feel it that night. Yet a more than inch-long spike lodged in my leg, and I didn't notice it until 2 or 3 days later. It led to the nerve pain and then the chronic, you know, the wound. I just thought we'd have a little marble-sized fibrous tissue, but that large spike was in there. So that's what I wanted to convey this story to you. Had a big surprise today when we found this at the surgeon this morning. It could happen to any one of us. And I just encourage you to wear gaiters, especially at night when you can't see the ground around you. Don't neglect chronic wounds, get attention to them. And whenever you have an injury, please report it to the deputy that right at that mission if you can. They need to know about that. So that's the story. Yes.
I'd like to add one more thing, and that is whenever we remove spines from a subject or ourselves, to make sure we disinfect it, whether we use the BZK wipes or even alcohol. BZK wipes would be better because alcohol will scar, but that's important.
Yeah, I agree.
Peg will remember, Cook will remember the story of a guy, I can't remember his name, an old timer with the Westerners who got a spine, ignored it, and his leg was still infected a year later when I came back in the next season. Anyway, so make sure you disinfect it. That's my message.
Thank you, Louise. And I will tell you that the surgeon today is culturing half of the wound for fungus. Because the agave spikes can carry fungus into the wound.
And
so she's
nasties.
culturing for fungus. And so she's going to be monitoring me for any potential fungal infection now that the wound is more open. It's not an cyst anymore. So I have to watch that. She told me that to stay off rough trails, like mushroom, for 2 weeks. Flat ground would be okay if I do gingerly, but to stay off trails for 2 weeks and I get stitches removed in 2 weeks, and we'll watch it for fungal. So I'm sorry for all the medical detail, but really this could happen to any one of us, and it happened so easy and I didn't even notice it. And that's why I wanted to share the story with you. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. We'll go back to gallery view and ask, is there any questions of anyone of anything we've talked about tonight?
Tim, just there's a cheap and easy cactus defense that you can get for about $6 at Walmart, is the Sakura shin guards.
What?
They aren't perfect, you know, they do have some holes in it, but I've had them deflect many cactus and saved a lot of
Tom, say the name again, please.
Oh, they're Sakura shin guards.
Okay.
Oh.
You can get a pair for about $6 to $7 at Walmart, and you just strap it around in the shin. I wish I came around a little bit more on either side, and actually hockey there's a hockey guard that's much more expensive that does that, wraps around the whole shin, but they're much more awkward. But anyways, for about $7, they're lightweight and they do have some holes in it just for ventilation for soccer, but they've helped me a lot on many of the trails.
So what I recommend is you consider like what Tom recommended, or gaiters. They have different types of gaiters, you know.
You can do
less
both.
expensive, the less,
Both is the best, obviously. Yep.
okay. The less expensive are nylon, the more expensive are either Kevlar or ballistic. I think the Kevlar or ballistic would have stopped this spine. I don't know that the nylon would have. So I do expect that Amazon will see a surge in gaiter orders tomorrow from Sedona area. I encourage that, and I encourage you to take the extra 5 minutes to put them on, particularly at night in these type of areas. That's my story, and that's the lesson. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions about tonight?
And I would just say, always put your gaiters on day or night, because you never really know what you're going to be doing. You start off on a trail, you think I don't need them, but invariably you go off trail and you really wish you had them on.
Yeah, I ain't gonna wear them all the time. I think after today's experience, I'm gonna wear them to bed even.
I like to add that I think you learn a lot more, much more by hearing a true story than by learning about wounds or precautions. So hearing your story is very profound for all of us. So thank you for sharing that.
You bet. The doctor said, be sure and keep your leg elevated, and it's elevated now, and the pain's starting to occur because the lidocaine's wearing off. So I don't wish this on anybody. So wear those gaiters, please. Okay.
And
Okay.
this is the second time I've heard a story like this week, having
Really?
to do with agave spines left in a leg. I've got a new coworker who he thought his leg was broken, and his leg was like in a cast for 5 months before they figured out that the x-ray had picked up a piece of an agave spine and not a piece of bone.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
Okay, so now just stay away from agaves totally, right? We can't do that. Okay, anything else before we break for tonight?
No.
Just a quick reminder that I will, right after this meeting, I will go ahead and send out that email from Volunteer Rescue. So everyone, if you don't get an email in the next half hour or so, check your spam or your junk folder for it from VR. But you should also receive a text, and then just acknowledge through the email that you did in fact get both of them, hopefully.
Okay. Before we end the meeting, anything from Marv or Adam?
Tim or group, I don't really have much. There was something that did come up, wasn't with your group, but that I've been asked to kind of remind all the units. We do encourage, if you guys want to do an interview with the newspaper or radio or something like that, we encourage that. That's fine. If you could just let the sheriff's office know that that's being done, and what the interview or such is about, just so that way we have an idea. Because what ends up happening is the interview gets done, it makes the paper or radio or something like that, then somebody says something to command staff, and then I'm being asked what the interview was about and if we knew about it and stuff like that. So I don't want to discourage you guys from that, because that's how a lot of the units get, donations and new members and recruitment and stuff like that. So I totally encourage it. Just let me or Adam know or Dee Dee know, one of us, who it's going to be with, if it's a courier or news or radio station or something, and kind of what the topic is. So we're aware ahead of time.
Okay.
And other than that, you guys have been doing great. I can't believe you had that in your. I thought you had a big cat at home, Tim. It looked like a big cat claw they pulled out of there.
Yeah, it looked pretty huge as it was coming out. Okay, thank you, Marv. Adam, anything from you?
No, I don't have anything. Thanks.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. Thank you for attending, even though it wasn't our regular night. You know, thank you again to Frank and Rick for all that you've done for us, and well wishes on your retirement from VSAR. Thank you very much. So
Thank you, guys.
we will miss you greatly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'll end the meeting. Thank you. Good night, everyone. See you around. Okay.
Good night.